Good morning, everybody. And Lenny, I can't wait to see that draft guide. I've got my own notes, and I'm sharing some of those with everyone today, but I can't wait to get the draft guide, compare it to what I've got. Take two sources, put it together. Wow. And everybody else on this network. Chappie tonight coming on, always great material. Chappie, I hope you're not ready doing shortstops because here I'm going with my shortstop show today. It's good to see everyone in the chat room. Good morning. This is Arnie. Corona, Dale, DK, Donkey, Okie, Doug Boyle, Jay Bass, Lenny from Long Island in the chat room. NYC, Ohio Angels. Pitches get stitches. We got a full house this morning, and we got a lot of material to cover. So here we go. We're going to deep dive this morning into the shortstop position. And I've got the chat room up, so as you chime in, I will try to chime back. How about that? Of course, let's start at the top, and I'm going to not only tell you who, but why. There you go. Who and why this morning. How's that sound to you? So our my number one shortstop is, of course, Frankie Lindor. Now, I think he's clear-cut. Last year, late start to the year, but look at the numbers that he put up. 32 homers. Wow. Okay. He had 101 runs scored, 74 RBIs, 22 stolen bases. His on-base average was over 360. His batting average was 284. So when you're looking at a player to draft in the first round at the position, Frankie Lindor is certainly in the conversation. He provides stats across the board, and when I'm drafting in the first, second, third round, I'm trying to find a player who can help me in the most categories. So think about this. Remember, he didn't play a full season. Still, he scored 101 runs. Still, he stole 22 bases, and still he hit 32 home runs. Wow. Home and away splits almost the same. He hit 289 at home. He hit 280 away from Cleveland. More home runs on the road, 18, 14 at home. Just consistency up and down, providing numbers throughout. He's my number one in my tier one. Now, I've got 4 in my tier 1. I'll go ahead and tell you who they are. The other 3 are Trevor Story, Alex Bregman, and Trey Turner. Of course, Bregman is eligible also at third base. Those are the 4 players in my top tier. So let's look at number 2 on my list, who is Trevor Story, Colorado Rockies. I'm always interested in who the Rockies have at a position. And, of course, Story last year, look at the numbers. He hit 294. He scored 111 runs, 35 homers, 85 RBIs, 23 stolen bases. His on-base average 396. So if you're in an on-base average league or you're in an average league, either way, Story puts up great numbers. He's entering his age 27 season. Last year, I think it's interesting, away from Coors Field, only 11 homers, and he hit 260. But at home, 24 homers and a 328 average. Lefties and righties, he hit 314 against lefties. He hit 288 against righties. 26 of his 35 home runs against right-handed pitching. He steals you bases. He scores you runs. He drives in runs. He hits home runs. And he has a good average and an on-base average. What's left to not like about 27-year-old Trevor Story, who is second on my list and in my first tier. My third player is Alex Bregman. Disregard what's going on or went on in Houston. Look at the numbers of Alex Bregman. 296 average, a 430 on-base average. He scored 122 runs. He drove in he hit 41 homers, and he drove in 112. Now, only 5 stolen bases. And so I think that's where I differentiate Bregman in my top tier from the top 2. I think Lindor and Story are 1A and 1B, and Bregman is number 3 because he doesn't steal bases. But he hits a ton. And away from home park last year. And this is what I think is critical about Bregman. His away stats were better than his home stats. So if there was trash cannery going on in the Houston dugout at home, it didn't translate into lower numbers on the road. Let's look at them. At home, 281 at-bats. Away from Houston, 273. Almost the same. He had 86 hits away from home, 78 at home, 20 doubles away, 17 at home, 16 homers in Houston, 25 away from his home ballpark. He hit 315 on the road and only 278 at home. So, if there was any shenanigans going on at home for the Astros, it certainly did not benefit Alex Bregman. He's entering his age 25 season. He provides numbers with OBA, with average, runs, home runs, RBIs. He's my third shortstop and in my top tier of 4. So who is my final shortstop in my top tier? It's Trea Turner of the world champion Washington Nationals. Now, here are Turner's numbers. 298 average, 371 on-base average, 96 runs scored. He did hit only 19 home runs and only drove in 57. I look for that to improve. He did steal 35 bases. I look for that to improve. I think without Rendon in Washington, they run more, which is Turner's game. Yeah, DK, I thought that was an interesting stat, too, on Bregman. Much better away from Houston than he is at home. And therefore, I tell you what, with all that's been talked about the Astros, and proven, of course, don't you see Bregman slipping from the first round? Possibly. And if he does, looking at the away numbers, he could really be a steal in a second round, particularly given the fact that he's multi-positional eligible. Keep your eye on Alex Bregman, guys. Trea Turner, I look at his home and away splits, almost equal number of at-bats. He stole 15 bases in Washington and hit 305. He stole 20 bases away from Washington and hit 290. You get all the categories, the OBA 371, the average 298. You don't get quite the home run numbers, but you get the run score, you get the stolen bases. He also hit 5 triples last year. He hit 37 doubles. So he gives you across-the-board numbers. So there's my tier 1. Lindor, Story, Bregman, and Turner. Turner being number 4 on my list. So let's break into tier 2, which I think, to me, is the most interesting. Well, I do want to add this more on Trea. Trea Turner lost 40 games last year with a broken finger. 40 games is 25% of the season. But he still nearly outproduced his personal best that he set in 2018. Remember, he missed a quarter of the season and still had the numbers that he had. His hard hit rate, 41.5%. His stolen base percentage, 35 out of 40, 87.5%. And his OBP was 353. I think Turner drives in more runs with Rendon gone. Those are clearly my top 4. Now, let's look into this tier 2. Because to me, this is where you can really get bargains. Should the tier 2s play like... Good morning, Andrea. Good to see you in the chat room. Should the tier 2s play up to their fullest potential, they can become tier 1s. And the top of my list, and ranking it at number 5 on my shortstop list for 2020, Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres. Now, Tatis was incredible last year. Remember, he only played half a season, 84 games. He hit 22 home runs, scored 61 runs, 53 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, hit 317 and had an on-base average of 420. Yeah. Let's project that out over 162 games. 42 home runs, 118 RBIs, 102 runs scored, 31 stolen bases, and a .317 average. Are you kidding me? He would be the number one shortstop. And that's why I'm saying these tier 2s that I have, Tatis, my 5th ranked shortstop, if he were to play up to best potential, best scenario, a 21-year-old, remember, he could be he would be the number one shortstop. What numbers? What do you do in his splits? Against left-handed pitching, check this out, guys. .419. Yeah, only 62 at-bats, but 26 hits in those 62 at-bats, and a .419 average. You love the projecting, Chappie? You know, I got it for you, brother. And Tatis is a great one to project. I'm looking upside. Yeah, of course, anyone can say, well, he'll never do that again. Well, he might not. But so might not anyone, right? I'm projecting based on what he has done in a very short sample. Look at his home and away. Now, we talk about Petco being a pitcher park, but not so much for Fernando Tatis. He hit .323 at home and .312 on the road. 12 stolen bases at home, only 4 on the road. I don't really know what to attribute that to. And 10 homers at Petco and only 12 on the road. Fairly evenly dispersed. Same number of hits, 53, road and home. So Tatis, where's he going to go in the drafts? I mean, really, how high will he go? I think he's a second rounder. Yeah, no doubt third. So let's see what Tatis does, how he comes out. Again, I'm only projecting, but wow. Now, I do want to say, the knock on Tatis is his high K rate, 29.6%. But if he can hit over 300, maintaining that strikeout rate, that tells me he's really zinging the ball when he's hitting it. I think he could end 2020 as an MVP candidate. There you go. Number 6 on my list, and in also my second tier, Chappie, you'll love this one, Javier Baez. Last year, Javi hits .281 with a .360 OBA, scores 89 runs, hits 29 homers, drives in 85, has 11 stolen bases, numbers categories right across the board. At the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, Javi Baez hits .309 last year, hits 15 of his 29 homers, so evenly dispersed home runs. On the road, he only hit .253. Against left-handed pitching, .304 average with 8 home runs. So he's a lefty killer. He's 27 years old. Javi has a lot of good years. And again, he gives you numbers across all categories. And we've seen him put up the numbers before. Javi Baez is my 6th ranked shortstop. And number 7, I got to go home with this one, Gleyber Torres. Yes, of the New York Yankees. Gleyber, the former Cub great, remember, traded for Aroldis Chapman in the World Series year. He's 23 years old. Last year he hit .278, scored 96, had 38 homers, drove in 90, OBA of .368, only had 5 stolen bases, all away from Yankee Stadium. His home-away splits, not much difference. He hit .277 at home, .280 on the road. .286 against lefties, .278 against righties. 29 of his 38 home runs came against right-handed pitching. And he's only 23. Probably slated to be the Yankee shortstop. Still remains to be seen what they do, if they're going to make any more moves. But that's where he's slated right now. And he is my number 7. Number 8, Xander Bogaerts of the Boston Red Sox. Xander last year, best year of his career, wouldn't you say? .309 average, and look at these numbers.